Today, we're diving straight into a really profound, deeply human narrative. We're going to explore how massive, life-altering external change actually begins with quiet, almost invisible internal discipline. To really unpack this, we're looking at the incredible true story of a grocery store worker named Ryan. Honestly, his journey is an absolute masterclass in how you rebuild your life when absolutely no one is watching.
So let's just set the scene for a second. Have you ever felt completely invisible? Like truly unnoticed? Picture Ryan. Every single night, long after the store closed and customers went home with their full bags, he'd stay behind. He's there cleaning shelves in this silent grocery store, under those harsh, bright fluorescent lights, just completely physically exhausted. That was his everyday reality. People would just kind of ignore him or treat him like a forgotten background character in a movie. And the crazy thing is, after years of this repetition, Ryan actually started believing he was invisible. It wasn't because he didn't have dreams, right? It was because life had just slowly buried those dreams under the incredibly heavy weight of basic survival.
Section 1. The Trap of Survival. Now, Ryan's feelings of invisibility actually went way back. They stemmed from a childhood filled with really intense financial insecurity. Growing up, he watched exhausted adults just give up on their dreams, and honestly, that terrified him. But then, after graduation, intense financial pressure forced him right into that same endless loop. You know the one: wake up tired, stock the shelves, handle the customers, come home exhausted, and just repeat endlessly. He kept promising himself, hey, this is just temporary. But here's the thing about temporary situations. They become incredibly dangerous when hopelessness starts growing silently in the background. He spent his nights just wondering why his life felt totally frozen, especially while he had to listen to customers confidently chatting about their careers and vacations. But the absolute breaking point, the moment the shame really boiled over, happened on a totally normal day. An old classmate unexpectedly walked into the store, and when she recognized Ryan in his employee uniform, her expression just shifted instantly. And it wasn't disrespect, it was pity. That look literally crushed him. Because deep down, Ryan already carried this really heavy fear that he was just completely failing at life.
Moving right along to Section 2, the mindset shift. Well, everything changed for him one late night. He was emotionally drained, staying behind all alone to restock shelves, when he noticed an older coworker just quietly reading a business book on his break. Ryan was curious, so he asked him, "Why are you studying after working all day?" The coworker just smiled and dropped this absolute game changer of a realization. He said, "This job pays my bills, but learning builds my future." Wow. Those words hit Ryan like a freight train. Suddenly, he realized that for years, he'd been spending 100% of his energy just surviving and literally 0% of it growing. Think about that core conflict for a second. On one hand, you have pure survival, which, if you're not careful, just traps you permanently. On the other hand, you have growth, which is actually how you build a real future. It was like a giant puzzle finally clicking together. Ryan realized in that moment that his job wasn't the thing trapping him, his mindset was. That single, powerful realization completely flipped how he viewed his entire reality. In fact, that very same night, Ryan went straight home, opened up a little notebook, and wrote down one incredibly powerful sentence: "My future will become bigger than my current situation." It sounds so simple, right? But it was profound for him, because for the first time in years, he finally allowed this tiny spark of hope to quietly re-enter his life.
Section 3. The Lonely Work.
So Ryan began this new transformation, and let me tell you, it was painfully slow. He realized pretty quickly that waiting for the perfect conditions to start just guarantees failure. True growth, it happens during the really uncomfortable seasons. So he completely stopped relying on that fleeting feeling of motivation and went all in on consistency. he built a strict new routine. Waking up earlier, exercising every single day, reading books before his shifts, and listening to self-improvement and communication content online. And he did this one incredibly difficult day at a time, even when his body was practically screaming from exhaustion.
But here's the reality of self-improvement. It can be incredibly isolating. Coworkers started noticing his new habits and they mocked him. They'd throw out cynical questions like, "What, you think reading books is going to make you rich?" They literally laughed at the whole idea of him trying to get better. But you know what Ryan did? He just stopped explaining himself. He completely refused to accept an average living as his permanent fate. He chose quiet self-respect over trying to fit in with the crowd.
Now, just as things were really starting to click, just as he was walking a little taller and feeling his self-respect genuinely grow, life threw an absolutely massive curveball. His mother became seriously ill. Overnight, the medical expenses skyrocketed, the financial pressure just exploded, and his sleep schedule was completely destroyed because he had to pick up constant extra shifts to cover the bills.
There was one night where he was just sitting out on the curb outside the store, totally drained mentally and physically. Actually, scratch that. He didn't just want a break. He genuinely wanted to quit. He wanted to give up on the whole thing. But then his coworkers' words echoed in his head, and a really stark truth hit him. Difficult seasons, they bring pain and exhaustion, sure, but that's temporary. Surrendering, giving up entirely, that becomes a permanent failure. He knew if he quit right then, that surrender would last forever. So despite everything hurting, he just kept going.
Section 4. The Breakthrough.
Over the next 2 whole years, Ryan was just relentless. He kept studying management and leadership online, pushing through the absolute grueling circumstances. And eventually, the right people started noticing. Specifically, a store manager who saw some very clear traits separating Ryan from the pack. When everyone else panicked or complained during a rush, Ryan stayed completely calm. He stepped up, solved problems responsibly, and just displayed this rock-solid, consistent discipline. All those quiet, private habits were finally bleeding out into his public reality. When his supervisor position finally opened up, most of the staff doubted Ryan even had a shot. But that manager, he completely trusted Ryan's work ethic. When the offer came, Ryan definitely felt those old echoes of childhood insecurity trying to pull him back down. But he pushed right past them. He leaned into all that internal growth he'd built up, accepted the role, and attacked the new opportunity with the exact same fierce discipline he'd practiced in the dark. Let's flash forward a few years. His life looked entirely different. He had a much better income, deep confidence, and real purpose. Walking through the exact same silent store aisles where he used to feel so hopelessly trapped, he had this beautiful full-circle realization. Think about the stark contrast here. The past Ryan was deeply insecure, feeling completely invisible in an empty store. But the present Ryan? He's confident, peaceful, and incredibly emotionally strong. He realized that those unbelievably difficult years that he used to absolutely hate, they were actually the forge that built the very best version of himself.
Section 5. The Real Lesson.
Okay, let's break down exactly what you should be taking away from this explainer. The biggest mistake most of us make is completely underestimating the power of small daily growth. Ryan's life didn't change when he got the promotion. It changed the exact moment he chose mindset over situation. He completely stopped identifying himself by his temporary job, and he shifted all his focus onto who he was becoming internally. Your current situation, it literally does not define your future permanently. Your mindset and your daily discipline do. And hey, maybe right now you also feel invisible. Maybe you're stuck in this repetitive, unrewarding routine and you're just exhausted. But please never forget this. Growth happens privately. It's just like a deep root system of a massive tree. Transformation happens silently, through daily discipline in those lonely hours,
long before it ever breaks the surface and becomes visible to the rest of the world. Years later, a really nervous young employee actually walked up to Ryan and asked him, "How did you do it? How did you escape your old life?" Ryan just smiled and he gave this incredibly profound, honest answer. "I stopped working only for survival and started working on myself too."
So, what does this all mean for you? If this explainer inspired you, make sure to subscribe to Gravonix Stories for more cinematic, motivational storytelling just like this. And right now, I want you to go into the comments and drop this exact phrase, "I will not give up." Because I want to leave you with one final, absolutely crucial thought. What are the silent habits you are building today that absolutely no one else sees? Think about it. The discipline you built silently today is exactly what's going to transform your entire tomorrow. Keep growing, keep pushing, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.